Welcome back, everyone, to the Youch Films podcast. Today we have the absolute pleasure of talking with Jack Lenz. Now, Jack is a talented music composer, having done work in television and film, probably most notably the creator of the iconic Goosebumps TV theme song back in the 90s. How are you doing, Jack?
Great, thank you. Nice to be here.
All right, that's enough of that.
All right. I guess just a refresher to anyone who hasn't heard the theme in a little while.
Yeah.
Everyone, I am joined by Tiki from So You Want to Be an Imagineer.
How you doing, folks?
I also have Bjorn with me from the Goosebumps #1 Aussie fan channel.
What's going on, guys?
And then Adam, he's a newcomer to the podcast, and hopefully will be joining us in future episodes.
Hey, everyone. Yep, cool. It's my first podcast too, so yeah.
Awesome. And then without further delay, we'll get right into everything. Now, Jack, how did you get involved with music in general? Where did your passion grow for this? Because it's definitely one of those things where, you know, it's really hard. It's like I love creating music myself, and you know, back in the beginning, like this a couple of years ago, I definitely don't consider myself a professional on any level, but I like creating music. It's definitely one of those things where it can be really hard to get, you know, something original down. How did you come into this whole world and industry?
Well, it's too long a story to tell here, but I'll tell you the short version. Sorry.
That's okay.
I'll tell you the short version. I was raised in a little town in Saskatchewan, which is in the middle of Canada on the prairies, called Eston. And my mom encouraged me to take piano lessons. And so I started there, and then I went on to study piano and music and composition at the University of Saskatchewan in Saskatoon. And I got my first sort of opportunities to play in bands, to really just be able to have a way of learning about music, and that then became my way of seeing if I could make a living at it, which was the thing that seemed most difficult from the perspective of being in a little town in Saskatchewan, and no one that my parents knew or that I knew had ever made a living at music. So that was my first challenge, was to sort of try to figure out how I could do that. And I realized sort of when I was about 19 that I needed to, and I've been playing in bands and stuff, and I always liked writing music, and I wrote songs. I wrote my first song and won an RCA recording contest when I was 17.
Oh, wow.
And went to Chicago to record the song. It was sort of like a Justin Bieber song for the time. I called Baby Baby. That's all I remember. And so I moved on from that, thank goodness, to moving to Toronto, which was sort of more of a music center. And then I played in bands there and did some touring in Canada. And then I got a break, and I got to work with a band out of California called Seals and Crofts as the musical director and pianist.
Okay.
And they were kind of a folk rock duo in the 70s, and I worked with them for a while. And then I worked with another band called Loggins and Messina, which was Kenny Loggins and Jim Messina. And I toured and worked as a musical director for those bands, because I could play the piano, but I could also write arrangements. I could write for string orchestra. I could conduct a band. And so it was early training in my 20s to be able to work with bands like that toured all over the world. And we spent a lot of time on the road. And then I got sort of tired of that, because I had a young family. So I moved back from California to Toronto and started to work as a musical director for live television shows in Toronto, which, went across the country. And that's kind of where I got my chance to start writing music for television, because I would start to write the themes, and I'd write stings and bumpers, in and out of segments on various shows, and then I started writing for news shows, which was a very good living and also paid good royalties. And then I got my first chance to do long form. Literally, I did a show for CBS called Due South about a Mountie, and then I got Goosebumps.
Wow.
and so Goosebumps was my second long form major television series. I can still remember writing the theme. I can still remember, what it was like to work with a group out of New York, Deborah Forte at Scholastic, and Bill Siegler, who was a very experienced senior producer, was just a great guy to work with. And, these were people who had worked in the creative field for a long time. And it was a very different sort of atmosphere in the early 90s because people really encouraged, thinking outside the box and trying to come up with something that was really unusual. And so I got to write that theme in the early 90s, and it's still survived. So, I've really done almost everything there is to do. I've produced records. I've written for television. I've written for film. I worked on The Passion of the Christ with Mel Gibson. I've worked with Andrea Bocelli, other great singers. So I've been pretty lucky. And overall, I guess that's the best way to say it.
Wow. I mean, yeah, just going back. Oh, I think, let's see. Does someone have, Adam, do you have headphones on? I'm sorry, folks.
Yeah, sorry, I have headphones on.
Bjorn, do you?
Yes, yep. I've got headphones in.
And Tiki, you have headphones on too?
I mean, my mic's been muted, so it couldn't have been me, but yes.
Oh,
I do have
okay.
headphones on.
All right. Well, I think we're good now. Okay. Anyways, sorry, Jack. But yeah, going back to the very beginning here, I can't imagine what it must have been like, wanting to be, aspiring music, creator back in that time. Mostly because nowadays it can be relatively easy, just to get involved with music and get your work out there, because you have these big sites like YouTube and Facebook, and you have all these instruments at your fingertips with all these softwares and everything. So I think it's great that you got all these opportunities. I think it's. Would you consider those things like a chance of a lifetime, that wouldn't happen again to anyone, or rarely?
Yeah, it's a very different climate. I mean, the only instruments that you played when I started playing music it was right at the beginning of the first sort of electric instruments, like electric piano, like Moog synthesizer, these things, those are all sort of very new to the time when I started playing in bands. And the whole concept of writing music for things, I wrote at a piano, then I would write it down for all the players, then I'd go in and record it with all the players. That has just changed so completely. Now you're lucky if a budget will allow you to use real musicians,
Yeah.
So it's makes me sound very old, but it back in it sort of sounds like, well, back in the days when we played accordion. So, but it was even though I think music has become much more prolific and has become so much more ubiquitous in a sense because it's everywhere, right?
Yeah.
It used to be that you had to actually go out and hear a band because it wasn't so easy to find recordings of them, and there was a lot more live music. And I think we may come back to that, because people at a certain point want to hear what it's like to hear somebody sing and play, right? What does it actually sound like? It's one of the things I love about Ed Sheeran is that you feel like he's a guy who you could actually go and watch him play and sing, and you get the real thing, So I don't know. I think it's just a different time, and even with Goosebumps, we used a lot of, we used a lot of synths and we used a lot of programming, but you always tried to make it sound real or feel real.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, if you don't mind me asking, just touching on that, do you remember what program you used to make the music for Goosebumps?
No, it would have all been under probably Logic Audio.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
And obviously, Pro Tools evolved through that time period.
Yeah, because yeah, I think it's really great for you because you have all this experience out of this whole social media time period and just this whole computer software music period. But yeah, you also have this experience with just the traditional sense, the traditional way of going after
Yes.
music aspirations and everything. So I think that's really great. Let's jump right into Goosebumps because that's probably what a lot of viewers are here for. And I know all of us here are pretty big Goosebumps fans. How did that come about? Like, how did you get offered this opportunity? How did they find you?
Well, I've been doing a series for CBS called Due South, and one of the guys that I worked with was Steve Levitan, and Steve Levitan was the Canadian producer. Because when the American companies come to Canada, they have to use a Canadian producer in order to get the tax credits and various things. And Steve had a company called Protocol Entertainment, which you'll see credited on Goosebumps. And so I had done some work with Steve, and he called me and he said, I'm getting this children's series. So would you come and have a meeting with me? And so I went and met with him and the American producer, Bill Sigler, was there at that meeting. And I just remember, it was one of these things where, we're going to do about 100 of these things. I don't know if they did 100, but they at least did 80. And we're going to do all these episodes, and we need you to be able to, manage this. And they had already decided that they wanted to have 2 composers. Brad was the other composer who did every second episode, but they wanted me to write the theme, and so it moved pretty quickly because they were already into pre-production when I got called. So it was I remember it was a bit of a not that it felt rushed, but generally television moves pretty fast. You have to get a lot of episodes done in a short period of time.
Yeah,
because it's all budgeted out according to the day, right?
yeah. And even if you look at the theme song, you have the dog from My Happiest Adventure. That's just a clip they pulled from the episode. So just that's a great way of just using your resources and not you have to you know what I mean.
I remember seeing that image of the dog in the opening, right, with the glowing eyes. And I said, I asked Bill and Steve, I said, so do you think I could use a musical dog? And they said, like a real one? I said, no, I like it.
Singing dog.
Yeah, singing dog. Because even samples were just really beginning at that time in the early 90s. And so I sampled, I found a great sample of a dog barking, and we used it as sort of a little mirror of the melody. That woof, 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 woof.
Yeah, that was far and away the most memorable part of the theme song on my end.
Yes, definitely. Did you ever? Did you actually ever visit the set?
Oh yes, lots. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
It was a really fun show to work on because Bill Sigler and Deborah Forte were both very inclusive, and you felt very welcome. And they were first of all, they were great people, and they'd been in the business a long time. You should look up the credits for Bill Sigler because he was it was like working with one of the greats in the business. And just to give you an idea of how old he was, you guys probably haven't heard of Danny Kaye, but Bill actually did Danny Kaye specials for television.
Cool.
And I remember him saying a very funny thing one time because we were just about finished the series, and Deborah Forte had asked him if he would supervise an animation project that Scholastic was going to do next, and Bill was in his, I think, his probably late 60s at that point, and he was explaining to me. He said, you know, animation, you don't really see anything until 2 years later. Like when you start, it takes at least 2 years. He said, I think they're just trying to kill an old Jew, because he says it will kill me if I can't see something for 2 years. And he had a great sense of humor, and just a marvelous guy. I really enjoyed working with him. And of course, Steve Levitan is a guy that I worked with on a number of shows and did a lot of projects with him over the years. Also a great producer, great friend, wonderful guy. So, you know, it's interesting when you work on these shows, you remember the people more than the shows. It's a fascinating thing, because you really develop a kind of a unique relationship with people in production, because you're all kind of under pressure and you're all trying to figure it out and make sure you're doing, you know, hopefully great work. And it's one of the few businesses in the world that it takes 200 people to produce that little, you know, 23-minute episode.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, yeah, like the Well, yeah, I'm just this is a question I had actually. It's about the theme song. Maybe you can answer this question for me. Where did they film that opening clip of R.L. Stine, or not obviously not R.L. Stine, but the guy playing him? Where did they film that? Do you know?
I think I've looked at it a few times and wondered, but it looks like it might be near what's called the Bluffs in Toronto.
Okay.
Because it's the only place that I can think of in Toronto where you have, like, Toronto's pretty flat, right? It's right beside Lake Ontario, and it's a gradual sort of rise up. But in the Scarborough Bluffs, which is just a little bit east, on the east end of the city, there are these huge cliffs, and these cliffs, you can actually go down there about 200 feet above the water, and then they have some little houses down below them, and then there's water. And when I looked, even in the picture that you got here on your front page, you're looking at the back of him, and it looks like you're looking out over water. And I'm pretty sure that's probably the Bluffs.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah, because Ezra, you and I have always been talking about where this was, like, so we could film our own version of it.
Like do a whole road trip, make a road trip out of it. Like, visit all the Goosebumps set locations from the TV show.
Yes, exactly. Like, when people are always saying they want to go to, like, you know, to the Empire State Building, New York, and all these different, like, iconic spots, I'm always saying I want to go visit all the different Goosebumps sets, like where they filmed Welcome to Camp Nightmare and Terror Tower, and I want to go to all those hot spots. Yeah, Horrorland, like that's where I want to go.
Well, you know, a lot of the scary, I don't know if you anything that had a castle in it was filmed at this place called Casa Loma in Toronto.
Oh yeah.
I went there when they were shooting episodes there, because it's such a magical place anyway, right? It's got this. The guy built it like an old British castle, right?
Yeah,
and
they filmed X-Men there as well.
Yes, yeah. Oh, you guys know more than I do. That's the truth.
One of my favorite movies, Scott Pilgrim versus the World, actually has like a big reference to Castle Loma. It's like, every time they need a creepy castle, they go here.
Yeah, exactly.
How many different versions of the Goosebumps theme are there? I mean, throughout the TV series, we did hear a lot of, I mean, even in some of the commercials, they played some different versions of it. But how many roughly are there that we actually haven't heard?
Well, the two main ones were obviously the initial one, and then we did this thing called Ultimate Goosebumps, which I guess I can't even remember what season that was.
Season 3 and 4.
Yeah, you guys probably know. So that was a lot of fun, because we got to sort of put this walking bass line in, and it became sort of a very different kind of feeling for the theme, but it was still fun. And we got this guy named Cal Dodd to do the Vincent Price voice, and it was just a blast. You know, I think those are the two main ones, and then we did some variations. I think maybe about 3 or 4 other variations that we used for different shows.
The medieval theme and the
Right.
and I think the ghost pirate sort of theme.
The ghost pirate.
Yeah. And there was the bad hair day episode as well. Also had a different theme.
Yeah, and you know, it was one of the nice things about the show is that people were willing to try stuff like that, where you could actually tailor it and have it closer to the episode. We couldn't do it every episode because we were doing basically one of these a week in post, you know.
Yeah.
So it moved pretty quickly.
Roughly how long did it take you to create this theme?
I think we worked on it a couple of days. The guy I worked with, who was doing the computer programming, was a very, very musical guy, wonderful guy named Jim McGraw. And I remember I was working with a company at that time called the Einstein Brothers, and we had a beautiful offices down on oh man, I just forgot the name of it. Oh, on Duncan Street. And we had 5 partners, and we all wrote music for most of them wrote music for commercials. I was writing music for long form. And I remember one of the partners, I think Tim Tickner was his name, came by after hearing that theme over and over and over out of our studio. And he said, "Really, are you going to play that thing again?"
Every episode we are, yeah.
And
I said, "You're likely to hear it a couple of hundred more times because, you know, once you get the idea." And I got the idea. I don't know if you know anything about musical language, but I really loved the idea of using in D minor, you use what's called a minor ninth, where you use the second of the scale of D minor, which is the E, and then the minor third, and then the fifth, and then against those 3 notes you have the D D C C B B coming down as a, so it's bum 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 bum, all against the minor, and it was just something that I sort of discovered as I was trying to figure out how I could make this thing sound a bit scary. But then I also really like the idea of having these bass lines that were moving against that figure. So you'd have the bump, 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 and it felt like a boogie woogie piece, except it was scary.
Yeah, and then you have the harpsichord in there. I think it's some kind of
oh yeah, the middle section, what I call the little middle section bridge. Dum 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 dum, like descending thirds thing. It was really fun. It's so funny. Like you don't really think about it when you're doing it. You're just sort of like whenever you write music, especially if you're trying to write something that you feel is meant to express the emotion or the idea around mystery and fear. Those are the 2 things that I was trying to achieve, right? Mm-hmm. A sense of and a little bit of a sense of fun and quirkiness, right? So that was my mission, I remember. And I remember just as I was finding stuff and playing, because I tend to just play because I'm a pianist. I just tend to play and find ideas in the playing, and I'm not always, you know, trust me, it's not always successful, guys. I have lots of times where I'll be sitting there trying to figure something out, and I'll just have to say, I quit. I'll come back to this later.
Yeah, one thing about the TV series that I've always found so special, like about the theme song, is, I mean, if you ask, you know, 3 and 5 people, what's the most iconic, memorable thing you have about Goosebumps, you know, they'll answer with the TV series theme. You know, it's the theme tune it really does represent Goosebumps. You know, when you hear that theme, you know, it's Goosebumps.
I mean, they played it. Yeah. They played it at the live show. I mean, I think that. Oh, speaking, yes. Well, I guess we'll get into that in a little bit. But they played it at the live show, if I'm not mistaken. And then, of course, you know, all the people wanting it for the film.
Yeah,
Gorn is exactly right. What's that?
I was saying it's like a big part of 90s pop culture. Like it's like sort of timeless.
like I see these posts on Facebook like from time to time, maybe like once a year, and it's a picture of that dog with the glowing yellow eyes, and it says if you don't remember this, you are not a '90s kid, and it's like so just I think just the theme and the dog, it's like it's an iconic piece of the '90s and just growing up in that time period, which I didn't, but I watched so much of it growing up, you know, in the early 2000s, and it's stuck with me, and I feel like a '90s kid, and I think Bjorn does too.
I was born in 1990, so I am
Yeah.
definitively a '90s kid, and yes, I can attest to all this.
I was, I think, yeah, I actually remember seeing like the second episode, which I think was actually the first one they filmed when it first came out back in '95.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You saw that when it came out?
Yeah, I saw it when it came out.
Wow.
I have to tell you guys, like, you know, I was in my seems like a long time ago, but I was already in my 40s when I wrote that music. So I always say the music of my people was the 60s. But the thing about memorable music, and it's always a challenge because, you know, I've had a life where I write at least 30 minutes of music a week. I've never had a break from that. And I don't want to take a break from it because it's what I love doing. But I've always wanted to sort of figure out what those keys are. And when you talk about how things become identified, there's something about music that I still try to understand and still try to, because it seems so incomprehensible to me, that even though it's just vibration on the tympanum of the ear, it has the power to create emotion and to affect the emotions, right? To actually affect emotion and memory. And emotion and memory are really tied into this idea of, as you say, of something that's iconic or memorable. Is that music, a piece of music, can do that, like, and nothing else can do the same. Like, it's just weird how influential that art form is, of having something that expresses something, and then people's memories. I mean, I know with television, because it's repeated a lot. I mean, I always wondered if the themes I've written were only played once, would anybody remember them? but because they're played a lot, then like, for example, I wrote a song for the Toronto Blue Jays called "Okay Blue Jays, Let's Play Ball," and it's the 35th anniversary of that song this year, and they've played it at every game in Toronto since 1982.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And at one point, the team was, you know, people in sports are a little bit superstitious. So at one point, they decided that they were going to not have the song anymore. And the fans were so just upset about it that the fans made them keep using it. So, you know, it's an interesting thing. It's an interesting reality that music is able to somehow connect to people's emotion and memory.
Well, for me, growing up in the 90s, I think, you know, I consider myself to be at this unique impasse where in my teenage years, I got into the internet and all that, but I didn't have that growing up as a kid, and I didn't have that when Goosebumps was around. Right. So it truly made kind of like the mystery and the, you know, like going outside and having an adventure or something like that, you know, like it truly amplified that for the time period I grew up in.
That's interesting. Well, and I think the other iconic image that I remember a lot from Goosebumps is the briefcase of R.L. Stine.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And just the giant shadow of the G following everything around.
I mean, it was really a brilliant opening visually.
You know. And then speaking of that mysterious, whoever that is, whether it's a woman or a man who plays that character in the opening, do you know who that is? It's a mystery.
No, I don't, but I could find out. I could sure find out.
Yeah, like if you could, I think, because I think that's probably one of the biggest Goosebumps mysteries of all time. Who is that character in the opening?
It's Jack Black, Sandy. It's Jack Black.
It's a very young Jack.
Yeah, exactly.
He was only 7. Yeah. That's actually a very funny thing, because you know, you're in many ways, people in the creative industry, I always say, remain in a childlike state. Because for me, I always thought it was R.L. Stine, and until this discussion, I've never actually thought about that.
Wow.
Because I just assumed it was him, because that's how
Yeah, I guess that,
how gullible I am.
I guess that very well could be him. I've always inspected just like the shoulders and just everything I can, just everything that they give us to work with, and I guess it's really difficult. I mean, I guess that's the way it's supposed to be, because they don't want you to see his face. But
Yeah.
Even on the live show, there was a mysterious figure wearing the suit and walking around with the briefcase. So who knows? Maybe it was Stein at like every show.
And he was on the set, so he was on the set some of the time at least.
Yeah,
so
he was, especially early on. He came up a few times.
Did you ever get a chance to meet him, or have you got a chance to meet him?
Yeah, I did. I met him briefly a few times on set. He was a lovely guy.
Oh, that's great.
And certainly, you know, I think authors and composers and producers and directors, writers, everybody, they all have sort of a mutual respect for one another, and so it's always it's interesting. You know, this conversation really makes me think back to those very fine days, because they were great days.
Do you have any good memories from the set? Like any? Yeah.
Well, you know, I don't know if have you guys ever spent any time on sets? Well, obviously you have, Ezra.
Yeah, I've also done some as well, like for productions. And,
Very amateur sets, but yes, we'll call it a set.
I always refer to it as like sort of like what it must be like to be in the army, because it's like it's what I call hurry up and wait, right? There's so much waiting around, and I always am shocked. And then whenever there is a scene being shot, there's so few people in that scene generally, unless it's a big scene. But there weren't a lot of those crowded with extra scenes in Goosebumps. It was just, you know, they tended to be what I call more small, intimate stories, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because it's sort of like the Hitchcock sort of view of life, that you get more out of one character being scared than you do out of 20 people being scared.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely.
Did you have like a favorite? I mean, you visited the set a few times, so did you actually have like a favorite, like episode or character, villain?
I think you know, I have to tell you, the very first episode was so shocking to me, because when we first got it, the whole idea of this guy in the library that looked so creepy and then had spiders crawling around his head. I know, I was terrified of spiders as a kid, and so I could barely.
Oh, I'm still terrified of spiders.
I could barely watch it, you know, and I'm thinking, this is for kids.
That was the one episode that absolutely terrified my brother. Like he could not watch that. And I used to think, like, this is rated what, GB7, which is what they called it.
It was Y7, in US, yeah.
How on earth is this for a 7-year-old? Like, and in the original book, he eats little baby turtles.
Yeah.
They change it to spiders,
I know.
which is obviously still not that bad, apparently. Like,
yeah, no, I thought he was terrifying, and you know, and then, you know, obviously we used all kinds of different orchestral effects to create scares for people, right?
Yeah, I think.
And one of the devices that we would use, and we use that in the opening theme, is this sound, which is called a marcato string section, and marcato is basically where the notes are played with, you know, great force, and they're very short. So and especially up in the higher register, they almost have a shriek type of sound to them, right? So we'd always have a few of those in the score, and Bill would come in and he'd say, I don't know. He said, I don't know that we want to scare them that much. And I would say, yeah, but Bill, it's in the pictures. Like, you know, we're not trying to scare them any more than you're already scaring them. You know, the music's there to support what you produced, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, so but there'd always be this balance between how much can you scare them and how much can't you scare them. And I would always say, boy, I wouldn't watch this stuff as an adult. So, as you know, some people are more sensitive to being scared, right?
Yeah.
And that's just, I think, you have different sort of thresholds for people. So I think that's a big part of what made the series, what made the books and what made the series popular was that they were always on that line of, how scared can you be?
Yeah, the 90s got away with a lot of stuff.
Yeah, it did.
Oh yeah.
And I feel like with the series, like watching it, growing up, it's like you have like really cheesy images of like just things like the dog with yellow eyes, which it's so iconic, but it looks very cheesy. But
Yeah.
it's things like that mixed in with like genuinely scary things. Like I remember, I still find
The
Saber
Haunted Mask, hands down.
Yeah, and stuff like that, and Saber from Camp Nightmare. I still find him genuinely creepy.
Yes.
And you have all that stuff intertwined. It gives off this really, like, I guess, on a budget, but at the same time, just really chilling feel. It gives you goosebumps. So I guess that's what it did what it's supposed to.
I talked about this when we talked about the Haunted Mask on my channel, but one of the most chilling moments from the Goosebumps TV show to me is in the third act when Carly Beth's looking in the mirror and she can't pull the mask off, and she's like, "My eyes, Sabrina, those aren't my eyes. What happened to my eyes?" It's just like it looks, it doesn't even have to look that scary. It's just the mental idea of it sells it.
Oh, I know. I thought they'd really crossed a line on the Haunted Mask. This is terrifying.
It's funny because I was actually watching the Haunted Mask the other night, and I noticed by change with the volume and all that the track where Carly Beth is having the heads chasing after her, I could hear reverse laughing in the track.
Yes,
like it's really eerie.
Yeah. We got one of the things that we use. I have to tell you, the scariest sound I've ever heard is, and there are several recordings of it and samples of it. Is the sound of pigs squealing.
Oh God!
And we would often incorporate that into the string effects. It was never just music. It was always like scary animal sounds in the midst of a string section, right? So I think that stuff really led to increasing the scare. And
we're talking about sound effects here. Oh, sorry, were you done?
No, yes.
Okay. All right. Speaking of sound effects here, I managed to find this online. I'm just gonna play it really quick. You were talking about those string sections and that I guess that horror hit, that strike you were talking about. I found this. That was not enough. Like stuff like that.
Yes.
I found that in an old '90s song by a band called Aqua, and I thought, oh my gosh, that's what Jack Lenz used in Goosebumps.
One of my other favorite episodes, because we used these orchestral devices on Slappy. We had this every time he would be running or moving, which he shouldn't have been able to do anyway. We always had this lower kind of combination of strings and brass doing this, and I remember really enjoying that whenever we got to use it.
It was always really eerie in that second Night of the Living Dummy episode. The scene where she's in the bedroom and she puts she puts Slappy on the chair next to Dennis. That score and that scene was always really eerie.
Especially
like
the
the
close
music
up on
box.
Slappy.
Yeah, like you have the music box mixed in with the clarinet. It's just all the different notes.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, do you have any of the like original music used for the show on your computer or anything?
Yes, I do.
Oh wow, that's amazing. Like, has anyone ever contacted you about doing a soundtrack?
Well, I proposed a soundtrack. This is just what it was like dealing with the powers that be, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think that's ever something that could happen in the future?
Oh, sorry. I'll just try to find a couple of pieces. Well, I really would have loved to have had something like that.
Oh, it cut out really quick. Let's see.
He was like trying to pull up music, so.
Oh, okay.
Oh wait, here he is. He's.
Yeah, just one second. I'm going to find it here for you.
Yeah.
This is great actual music from the show.
Yeah. And it was so funny because I'm going to see if I can.
So, do you own all this music too, or along with the theme song?
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow, that's
Nice.
great.
And I've never used it for anything else because a lot of stuff doesn't necessarily everything you write doesn't get used, right? But at the same time, you just get sometimes you do things and they don't get used, and so you use them in other things. But I've never used the Goosebumps stuff for anything. And it's always sort of been there, and I've always wondered. Well, and that's what was sort of exciting to me about. I would have loved to have been able to have I would have loved to been able to have the theme and some of the score in the music, but that's how Hollywood functions. They didn't want to have anything to do with the TV show.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Sorry, I was just going to say that back in the 90s, they released a CD called Goosebumps Sounds of Halloween, and they had your theme, but the rest of the music was just like random stuff from...
Oh yeah, this is our jam here.
Viewer beware, you're in for a scare.
Wow!
That was really fun. Yeah.
Was that a demo, or was that an unused piece?
It was an unused piece because they wanted a kind of a longer version of it. They'd even talked about, because we actually got, we went some way towards the soundtrack, and then it just never happened. And well, here's Slappy's theme, for example. I don't know if you remember this.
Oh wow.
This was weird because it was sort of the idea that he was just this happy guy, and then it got weird.
Yeah.
Is that it in the background there? Or
Here it is.
oh yeah.
Oh,
Oh, Bjorn, that's the one. That's the one you were looking for.
That's the one I was looking for.
Oh, man.
everywhere.
Oh wow! Like this. Oh my goodness.
Here they come.
Oh yeah, I recognize all this. Wow.
Ah,
That
it's such iconic score from that episode. Like, you'll never forget that.
yeah.
I feel like that's like there was this one piece. I don't know if you still have it. It was the sad theme from the Haunted Mask, and it may have been used other places as well. I can't remember. But I remember it from the Haunted Mask. It was right after the two boys. I forget their names. A scared.
Todd and Steve, I think.
Yeah. I knew it was Steve and something.
Chuck and Steve.
Oh, Chuck and Steve. Yeah,
yeah.
you're right.
Chuck
you're
and
right.
Steve.
It was a first episode right after they scared Carly Beth from underneath the pumpkin patch or the hay or something, and then you hear this really melancholy piano theme playing, and it just sounds so. It sounds sad, but at the same time, it just sounds so like just depressing.
I think this is the one here.
That's the one.
Yeah, it is. That's it.
Actually, someone on YouTube made a version of it, a cover of your Carly Beth theme. I can
really?
play it if you like. I'll see if I can.
I'd love to hear it.
And speaking of which, Jack, have you ever thought about releasing this the soundtrack on YouTube?
That's a great idea, actually. I should do that.
Yeah, because you can make a whole playlist and.
Please do it. Please do it.
You can have the
All right,
you would have.
I just have to find the time.
I had this idea. Like, what if Waxworks, they did the Goosebumps soundtrack? Like, what if they did like a vinyl of all the music? That would be really cool.
That'd be amazing.
This is great. Jack.
Yes. Have you had enough?
I was.
Actually, I was gonna.
What's that, Adam?
Actually, I was wondering, 2 of the episodes which I think had the best music were Stay Out of the Basement.
Oh,
and
that's a good one, yeah.
And Werewolf Skin. Werewolf Skin had the guitar rock sort of music.
Yes.
I think that was really.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, that's right. I remember that. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah. I found the.
I'll just tell you some of the.
theme.
I'll tell you some of the titles just quickly, if you have a minute.
Sure.
Yeah. We have all the time in the world.
And I'm happy to send you the whole score, because it was. I have it listed. The reason I was having trouble finding the computer, sorry guys, is I have it under GB soundtrack.
Oh yeah.
Oh.
Because I was looking under Goosebumps, so I've got 39 pieces of here.
Oh.
Hey Jack, I'll make a proposition to you. If you send this to me, I will create a YouTube channel for you, and I will give you all access to it, passwords and everything, and we can have this stuff. We can have this stuff on YouTube for people to listen to. That'd be so cool.
It's so nice that somebody actually knows how to do that.
Yeah, like I have a few different YouTube channels up, and man,
we can figure it out for sure.
That'd be absolutely awesome.
Here's some of the titles that you'll love: Bad Dream, Carly Beth's theme, Cricket Lunch, Cricket Lunch, the Cuboratory, the Curiosity Shop, Dad's Room, Dad's Weird, Forbidden Bunk, and then various versions of the theme. And then I think I might have sent Adam this thing called Goosebumps Gotcha. It was a thing that we did as a rap thing that never got used.
Oh God!
And then,
wow!
And then we have one called Green Ooze, Home Video, I Love Mum, Money, different versions of Money, Moonlight Rampage.
I remember that from the what's it, the
Trilogy?
Wheel of Fortune. Yeah, the Wheel of Fortune episode.
Yeah, that's right. And then there's a prologue. Sorry, I'm just trying to move this cursor here. And then there was a Slappy's theme, Slappy's Headache.
Oh my gosh, this is insane. This is like the diamond in the rough for Goosebumps fans.
Yeah,
it really is.
I think it'd be fun. So there are 39 cues altogether, and some variations of the theme that people probably haven't heard. But anyway, happy to do that. I'll just have to figure out how to send it along.
I
maybe
have
through
email.
email.
I just created a Google Drive titled Goosebumps Soundtrack, and I will give you access to it, and you can just upload unlimited. It takes like seconds. Let's see.
Great.
Okay, folks, this is turning into like a big discussion. Like this is
Right.
awesome. This is so good. We're getting super off topic, but I think this is great because I think fans. I think this is
I
like
think
what
all
they
the
want.
Goosebumps fans listening right now are just gonna be like, yes, yes,
Yes.
Well, I've obviously it's like stumbling upon a hidden treasure of people who share a common love for this crazy show.
Cool.
It was a lot of fun. But
I found
sorry,
some of
go
the
ahead.
cover music that's sorry. I found on YouTube people who did some covers of your theme music. Like here's the Carly Beth one. There's also one for the Werewolf of Fever Swamp. But yeah,
Great.
can you hear it?
Oh yeah, you want to play it really quick?
You might want to have to unplug your headphones.
Yeah. The music is just so underappreciated. The music from the show, just
Well,
it's
that's why I
so
always
good.
felt that there should be a soundtrack because people would know the episodes well,
Yeah,
Even someone-
yeah. Oh yeah, let's hear it. Let's hear it.
This is from the Werewolf of Fever Swamp. I think it's from when Grady was in the swamp for the hermit.
Is it playing?
Yeah, it might not be working. I can always like send you the YouTube
Yeah,
links.
yeah. Send me the links. That'd be fun, Adam. That'd be great.
Sure thing.
Yeah, this is awesome. This is awesome. And I'll send you the link to the Google Drive, Jack, and you can
Great.
just upload away, and I'll create a YouTube channel ASAP.
Make sure you send it to me too, Ezra.
Oh yeah,
And
yeah,
me
yeah.
too.
No, we'll all share. It's a great idea, guys. Thank you so much, and I really appreciate a chance to chat with you about this. I'm always appreciate when things have enduring qualities, right? It's what you try to do.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's amazing how no one's reached out to you about this before. I mean, the music from the show is, again, I'm just gonna say it's so good. Like there's so many great themes, not to mention the actual theme song. That I just can't believe that no one's made more of an effort to try and get a soundtrack.
It's
As a
weird
possibility.
I just have to tell you, it's a weird thing because I've worked on so many television shows and we've never, ever done a soundtrack for any of them. Like and sometimes, I always say to people, why aren't you doing this? Why wouldn't you? You have the power of a show where you could put an ad at the end of an episode saying, here's my, here we have this, this soundtrack coming out. And I think everybody that loves the show would love to have that as a memorabilia and as something to enjoy. But people so seldomly do it. Obviously, people do it for films all the time.
Yeah,
Oh yes, when it comes to memorabilia, I must have everything.
Oh boy.
It's kind of funny because back in the 90s they released a CD called Goosebumps Sounds of Halloween and it only had your theme on it, but the rest of the music was just like random stock music. It was like weird.
They played it on the live on stage, the Disney World MGM Studios show. They played some of the Sounds of Halloween music, but other than that, I've never heard it anywhere else. Like,
Really? Yeah. Well, you know what I used to do for Halloween at our house is I do a compilation of the theme and score and stuff, and I'd play it for the kids as they were coming to the door.
Nice.
Oh, I wish I could have gone trick or treating at your house. That'd be the best thing ever. You could have like someone really needs to make like a replica of the dog with the glowing eyes. Just for the
Yes,
Halloween
yes. Oh my
decoration.
god.
Yeah.
Oh
For
man.
sure.
well,
Oh,
Ezra,
boy.
let's
Just
hope
have
we get
someone
some
like standing
merchandise.
ominously with like a briefcase and a trench coat.
Yeah. I mean, actually, Sony.
Oh
Actually,
yes. Tell them, Ezra. Yes.
They just contacted us. The Goosebumps sequel is coming out in next January.
Right.
Oh, September.
September, yes, that's what it is. And I asked them, Bjorn and I asked them if they were ever going to do merchandise for it, and they said they are working on a whole, what was it?
A new
They're working on merchandise.
like a new program.
Was it?
A new program.
Yes, that's what
New
it was.
merchandise program.
Right.
So
Wow.
hopefully Scholastic can get in on this and like maybe make some things from the TV show as well, like toys. Like I think
Pops,
an action
Funko
figure.
Pops.
Yeah, like I think an action like a pop of the or an action figure of the dog
Right.
set.
Oh
That'd be
my
so
god,
cool.
yes.
Yeah, that would be great.
Like a Comic-Con collectible piece. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. You're lying in your bed, and all of a sudden, this thing in the corner starts to glow.
Yes, like the dog is like a nightlight with the glowing eyes.
Perfect.
Yeah, man, this is great. I'll send you the link to the drive right now.
Great.
Hopefully you can
No, I
access
just
this.
saw it. Yeah.
Oh, I sent it to you already. Okay, all right. I'm
Got it.
reiterating things here.
Yeah. I
No
actually I was going for a lot of Goosebumps stuff on YouTube and all that, and like your music that you done, like the variations of the theme. I think I've calculated that there are about 17 different versions of your theme used throughout the episodes, like
Wow.
Cry the Cats, and even the premiere theme from 1995, like the very first episode with the long credits. Like they had like a different theme that they used on the DVD for the British and Australian release.
Right.
Yeah,
Amazing.
it's like so many variations. It's really awesome.
There even some of the commercials, different Goosebump commercials had for like different merchandise, had some different variations of the theme. Like you could hear, like it's kind of like all over the place. It's everywhere.
Yeah.
I will say that the music that you played earlier from that you had, actually, I think a little bit of it was used or very similar to the Attack the Mutant game that was released in 1996 on
Right.
PC.
Right.
Yeah, I think the one starring Adam West.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
It's always curious to me because you don't always hear about these things until after, in terms of where they've been used. But it's always fun to see where they end up getting used.
Yeah,
So,
I think. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. I'm reticent to do this, but I have to. I have deadlines for the morning, and I've got to get back to work. I'm doing a series for Hallmark right now called Good Witch, another not so scary series.
All right. Well.
But I'm happy to come back and chat at another time, guys. And this has been very enjoyable. I really appreciate it.
Well, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, we'll definitely have you back on sometime in the future when you're available. We'll title this Jack Lenz Part 1, Episode 7.
I mean, this is just Goosebumps. There's so much other stuff to get into with your career.
Oh, this is like a quarter.
This is
of
the Goosebumps.
Goosebumps.
This is the Goosebumps episode.
Oh, perfect.
Right.
Yeah,
So,
that's great, guys.
What were we gonna say?
I like the Saddle Club theme. That was pretty cool too.
Yeah, Saddle Club was a fun series. We did a ton of those. It was a co-production with Australia. We ended up there were even there was a Saddle Club soundtrack that was released in Australia because all the girls that were in the original series could sing.
Yeah, my friend Sophie was actually in a couple of Goosebumps episodes. She was in Saddle Club, I think. Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah. Well, thank you very much, guys. I really appreciate your time and your interest, and I'll send you this. Start sending you music. I probably won't get to it until tomorrow, Ezra, but I'll do that.
That's okay.
For sure.
Oh yeah.
Oh, that'd be fine.
great. And Jack, thank you so much for coming on, and we really appreciate you taking the time out of your schedule.
It was a pleasure, guys. Thank you very much. All the best, and we'll chat again soon.
Okay, thank you so much.
too.
Okay.
Awesome.
Have a great
Thanks,
night.
Jack.
You too, guys.
See you,
Bye
Jack.
for now.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Well, everyone, this was quite the show. We have never had
Bjorn,
Like
like you're the big Goosebumps fan in the room. Was this like a holy grail moment for Goosebumps fans?
I think so.
Oh, man.
honestly, I mean, to think we're going to be getting all this music too is just incredible. Like, I make sure, Ezra, like you link me to that Google Drive so I can download all that. Like, that's something that I've been looking for so long. So
Yeah, we can all have access to that account and just upload anything Goosebumps music related. That can be the
Sweet.
Goosebumps music channel, the official Goosebumps music
Oh my
channel.
god.
Now
we
everyone,
gotta be good little kids now. We have to share. We have to share this music.
yes, and boy, this is. I'm still getting over how awesome this just turned out. Like this is definitely shorter than our regular show, but boy, we got the works here.
Yeah.
We got everything we needed. Like,
Well, the fans came
yeah,
for Goosebumps. We gave them Goosebumps.
Yeah, and Bjorn, this is perfect for your channel. I think your audience is really going to enjoy this, and it's not 2 hours long.
Nope.
So there you go.
yes, it'll be so much easier to export. Oh yes.
Yeah, exactly. I hear that.
Oh man, thank you.
Well, hopefully, like I'll go create the channel now, and I'll link it to anyone of us who wants
You should
it.
totally put a link in the description as well of this video.
Oh yeah.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Send that music over when you get it.
I will. But yeah, everyone, thanks for tuning in. We'll be back with more Jack Lenz in the future, near or far. It was great talking to him. He's a really nice guy. You guys obviously know. Super talented, super nice. And I'd like to thank all of you guys here for joining me, Tiki, Adam, and Bjorn.
Cool. Thank you for having us.
And I feel like we just reached the tip of the iceberg when it comes to just like this guy's multifaceted music career. I mean, there's so many stories he probably has, so I can't wait to talk to him again.
Yeah, of course. It's great. And everyone, to all our listeners out there, we have a some very special episodes coming up. We're talking with getting the names mixed up here. Talking with Susan Roman. She was the voice of Sailor Jupiter, as well as doing work, for other brands such as Barbie or Tintin, Babar, the Elephant. So we'll be talking with her in the future.
Ezra, you're burying the lead. You're burying the lead, man. Come on. Come for Thomas and the Magic Railroad.
Yeah, of course. Hey, what am I doing? Of course, she was also in Thomas and the Magic Railroad.
I'm sorry. I'm just saying, just because we had Neil on as well. So,
of course, that had to slip my mind. Anyways, we have Susan Roman coming on the 19th, I believe, and then on the 21st, we are getting Sean Fry.
Oh, I'm so excited for that.
Yeah, if you guys don't know who Sean Fry is, what?
Who's Sean Fry?
He was in E.T. from 1982, Steven Spielberg's E.T. He was Steve. He was one of Mike's best friends. He's
yes.
He was one of the kids at the end who flew over the sun.
Yeah. I'm so excited for that one, Ezra.
So you're gonna ask him, did you actually fly over the sun, or?
Well, I already know how they did like all the effects and everything. I read a big book on it. But it's definitely going to be a super and extremely exciting, conversation. This guy has always been like one of my favorite characters from the movies, so super happy to get in contact with them. Everyone, tune back in for that. Coming on the Susan Romans on the 19th, and Sean Fry is on the 21st.
All right.
That's about it, everyone. Sorry if I sound a bit unprofessional. I'm just in a bit of a hype right now. And see you later, everyone. Don't forget to subscribe and like, share, comment, all those great things. Bye-bye.